Hello, welcome to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia, and today we are doing the Blackathon vlog. If you missed my TBR, I will link it down below, as well as the playlist to all of the Year of Readathon's content that is happening. Blackathon is created by Jessie at Bow Ties with Books, and it's fun. Hello. If you decided to participate in Blackathon, please let me know how it went for you, how you feel about any of these books, and I guess we can get into it. She's a menace in the video too, don't worry. So I have begun my first book. I finally got the audiobook for it, even though I knew the end and I knew it was like 5 minutes long, so I wanted to start with it. It's like 4 hours, but still. It's separated into 5 parts and I just finished the first one and I'm kind of loving it, which is so unexpected because the last Polk that I read I hated, and this is doing a lot of the same things. It's historical fiction fantasy, but good. It's about this woman who's a private eye investigating the serial killer vampire in 1941 Chicago, but she's also a warlock and there's like magical police and stuff and a deal with the devil. It's really good. I think this is the perfect kind of story to be a novella too. It feels really quality. There's a good amount of like humor in it, and because it's the 40s in Chicago, she's very much like, ayo, doll face. Like it's very fun. And it's one of those where the magic just sort of makes sense, and everyone has a slightly different magic, but I don't know. I think it's really good and I'm very happy. It is just a short, oh my goodness. You want to do this together then? It is a short time later and I have just finished, even though I knew the end, and it was so good. I really do stand by it just being The Midnight Bargain, but better, because there's a lot of magic, spiritual stuff that isn't necessarily explained, but they try to justify as being explained. But it's also a sapphic story and a mystery, and it's a lot about, because it's a good amount of historical fiction too. Now you want to go? Thank you. Because it's also historical fiction and about queer women, so there's a good amount of talking about women's positions in society and some mental illness stuff. It's all very good. I'm trying to do my job. I think especially if this was the type of genre that you were interested in, like I'm not a historical fiction or fantasy kind of person, then it could be really good for you. But I just think it was really quality writing. It was funny. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek while also like not shying away from anything. It opens on like a very bloody murder that has happened. And overall, I was very happy with the direction that it took, and I think that the page count was absolutely perfect, so I'm giving it 5 stars. You are balanced very precariously, but I think we'll be okay. You can see it wobbling a little bit. Anyway, I am just under halfway into the Kindred and I'm really enjoying it. It definitely has a hard tone shift, not tone shift, but like expectation shift around the 25% mark, but I think it's all working for me. First up, let's establish what Kindred means in this world, because I wasn't clear going in. Basically, it was a political move between the higher class and the lower class, where everyone has a chip inserted into their brain at birth that telepathically connects them to a person of the opposite status. And they thought that this was a way to sort of appease the masses, make sure that the poor people felt that their voice was being heard, and give the rich people perspective, I guess. So that's what's happening. Joy is lowly and Felix is royal, which has some slightly different rules around it, but generally that's what Kindred is. And so everyone has one of them. They're not necessarily romantic, but most of the time are. And this is also just a very queer world. They immediately talk about how Felix is pansexual, I assume. They don't put a label like that, but it's just like a delightful time. But the hard tone shift is that this is majority set on Earth. So you do all of this prep with the planets that our main characters live on, and then swiftly we're at Earth and we're going to high school. It's all working very well, but I think that's definitely something that you have to know going into it, because if you're expecting a fantasy epic about like the telepathic thing, it's much more about these kids hanging out and going to high school and stuff. Obviously the stakes are higher than that, there's murder and stuff involved, but the one thing I'm finding it hard to get on board with is how they can block each other sometimes, because basically these characters are debating whether or not they like each other in their own heads. Kat, I will be with you in a minute. Because it feels like they are just with each other all the time, but they can't tell that the other person is debating whether or not they like them. Like, this whole thing could have been cleared up. It's the miscommunication trope to end all miscommunication tropes, basically. It's just something you have to get on board with to have that tension there. Taking me out of the story a little bit every time, trying to like, is Joy hearing this? Is Felix hearing this? I don't know. But it's really fun, and like goofy first contact stories are something that I really enjoy, where they have to learn all the lingo and stuff like that. So it's going really well. There's also a bit about the political machinations that seem very obvious to me, but maybe this is just YA and I just haven't read a YA in a minute. So she likes to sleep in this blanket by my feet, and sometimes I get up and she doesn't. Let's see what she's doing. Hi! Hi, girly. The cat was playing a little too hard and ruined my sweater. I'll fix it shortly. This can't be that hard to fix. So I finished the Kindred and I really liked it, but I think I am going to give it 3 stars. It delivers on everything that it sets out to do, but I think it's just maybe a little too YA for me, and it really leans into the romance, which I never fully bought. They do a good job of trying to make me buy it, but I just wasn't quite. But I think it was good. It was a fun adventure story. It just gets a little, not convoluted, but it's too long. This is 400 pages and it absolutely doesn't need to be. Also, I'm pretty sure that this is the second in a unofficial series. The previous book is about the Ilori, who are one of the types of aliens, but it's mostly set on Earth, so maybe it's just a world building thing, but like, you can very easily read this as a standalone, but I do wonder if there were little bits that I missed out on not having read the previous book. But yeah, I really liked it. I would definitely recommend it for YA people. I read less and less YA, so good to tip my toe back in. A 3-star isn't bad. I had a perfectly lovely time reading it. And the end definitely got into a lot more of the political stuff, which isn't necessarily something that I enjoy. So like, good book, just not set up perfectly for me to enjoy. Let's call it 3 stars. I really don't have much to say about this one. Good morning. I have made the very bold and brave decision to DNF Fake It Till You Bake It. I read the first 2 chapters. It is dual POV, so I wanted to give both of them a chance. But it just really didn't work for me. I think immediately they're very horny. There's lots of physical descriptions of everybody, which I wasn't a huge fan of. His thighs and her lips, and I don't know. It gave me the ick immediately, and I'm trying to be good about DNFing. Also, this is about a bakery, and traditionally I don't like books about food that have to do with making food or whatever. Obviously for something like this it sucks, but DNFing a group book is good too. I am 20% of the way into House of Hunger. Thank you, kitty. And I'm enjoying it. I'm not quite in it as much as I would like to be, but it's good. I think it's more a me problem than a book problem. It's interesting because it's actually reminding me quite a bit of I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. These came out at basically the same time. They're not the same genre. I'm so sorry, but I'm busy. She's being loud, so we're just stuck with this. It's reminding me a lot of I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers, in the way that the Blood Maids, you can't jump on the bookshelf. In the way that the Blood Maids and in here the Aspra girls are these like high society, how do I explain this? They're like regular everyday women who are chosen to become something much more important, and there's a lot of like mystery surrounding it. This is contemporary fiction and House of Hunger is fantasy, so I think the fantasy setting will actually be a lot better for me for this concept. If anyone knows how to get a cat to stop meowing all the gosh darn time, I would really appreciate it. Anyway, I'm enjoying it, but we're still in the beginning stages. Our main character, Marion, I believe is her name, has decided that she wants to become a blood maid, and so she is on the way to the north to meet her countess, I think. Her house is a little bit chaotic today, I guess. Don't you dare jump. Anyway, hopefully I will get out of whatever funk I'm in and get more into it. If memory serves, my last clip was pretty incoherent, so let's talk about House of Hunger now that I've finished it. I know in my TBR I said that I knew that this book was about racism and vampires, and it is about neither of those things. There's basically no discussion of race in this, and the vampires are seemingly just regular people. It seems like everyone can drink blood, and blood has like magical healing properties to it. And I've been struggling all day with what to rate this because it's not a 4 and it's not a 5. So like, but I have to commit one way or the other. And there's 2 things that I've realized why my brain doesn't want to give it a 5. The first is that it reads kind of YA. There's a lot of very explicit stuff in here, but our main character is 19 and all of the characters are sort of around her age, and I just found her sort of immature, and maybe that was an expectation going into it that was wrong on my part, that I kind of assumed it was YA, but like it's definitely not. But the other reason is because I just want more from it. There's so many amazing ideas laid out in here that I just wanted this book to be even longer. It's a tight 300, which is great, but this is the one time I think a book maybe should be longer. So we start with Marion being selected as a blood maid, and then they take this train to the north. The north is where all the rich fancy people live, and the train is so fascinating. I could have spent so much time just on the train, but it was like one chapter. And then we get to the north and we meet the countess, who we are blood mating for. There's probably a word. We are indentured to her anyway. And they talk about like how it's gonna work, and we never actually go outside of the property that she owns. Where like I wanted to know, how do you spend your time? Like, what does the village look like? How does interacting with other houses look? And it makes sense like why we didn't. It's a tight story, a tight 300. We gotta keep it close. But I just wanted so much more from it. I wanted more of Marion's relationship with the countess. I wanted more of her relationship with the other blood maids. I wanted to know more about this castle. And I realized that if I'm wanting more, doesn't that just mean it's good? Like, these are all things that I don't think the book was missing, but would have enhanced my enjoyment. So I think I'm giving it a 5, which feels wild to me, but it is just such an excellent horror story too. Like, the slow build of it, the world building in it is so good. There's some like really dark and tense stuff that's happening. They play this game of hide and seek basically that's just like horrifying and amazing, and I just think it was a really excellent book. It's interesting because I mentioned originally, I don't know if it'll make it into this clip, that the beginning reminded me of I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers, with the similarities between Asper Girl and Blood Maids, how they're elevated in society but nobody quite knows what the deal is. And then in the middle it started to feel like The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, which is about a group of women stuck in this gothic house with this enigmatic cult-like leader she's just so cool, and like, you know that there's something off about her, but she's just like so cool that you go with it. And then by the end, of course, it feels like Mexican Gothic, as all Gothic adjacent stories do. Anytime you mention a mushroom, they mention a mushroom briefly, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be the same thing, but like it wasn't. It was one scene and then we moved on from mushrooms, but I was like, ah, Mexican Gothic. It's in my brain now and there's no getting away from it. I'm sure Silvia Moreno Garcia is not the first one to use mushrooms. I'm sure it's an homage to something, but I don't know what, and it seems like the booktube community relates a lot of things to Mexican Gothic, so I'm gonna keep going with it. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5-star. I think maybe the pacing was a little off, and the character, I wanted her to feel more adult, regardless of all the very adult things that happen in this book. but I loved it, and I can't stop thinking about it, and I have such a clear picture in my mind of certain scenes even after finishing it that it's gonna stick with me. And I've been hearing a lot about The Year of the Witching, that's Alexis Henderson's previous book, that I think I have to pick it up because this is just so excellently done. And I don't know if they have another book coming out this year, but I need to find out. Unexpected gem of the video. Like, I know I gave, even though I knew the end, 5 stars, but this feels better. Whereas, even though I knew the end is very much outside of my comfort zone, this is very much inside of my comfort zone. It does a lot of things that I just love in books, and I'm so happy that I finally got around to it. Which means we just have one more book. I've been waiting all month for the audiobook of 7 Days in June to come in, and it still hasn't, so I'm gonna have to start reading it physically, which is fine. It just means it'll take me a little bit longer to get into, get my brain in the right spot too, so hopefully it's good. Alright, 7 Days in June. I have read the first 3 parts, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which gets me around 40%, and it's going fine. I definitely don't love it. I'm not getting a 5-star feeling from it, but it is a very quality book. It's about our 2 main characters, Eva and Shane, who are both writers and knew each other when they were in high school, and now 15 years later they are meeting again, but they seem not happy with each other because of something that happened in their past. It is told in dual perspective, and I'm definitely enjoying Shane's more, but I think that's mostly because Eva has a kid. She's like 12 or something, and the kid's fine. I do like the kid, but it's the perils of parenting that really stress me out. But even this far into the book, they've only had 2 interactions, and both of them have been very stilted, and like one of them was they were both on a panel for something, which was fun and interesting, but I'm not getting any romance whatsoever. I can see that we're going there, but like, when does it count as slow burn when they don't even really like each other? Like, they find each other attractive, but I guess it's just mostly history. You are also getting chapters from the past to go through what happened with them. It's also seeming to imply that the 7 days are in the past and not this current week. I feel like there isn't really much for me to say about it. It's very much the book that I expected at this point. It's well written, it's got good jokes, but it's definitely not a lighthearted story. They're dealing with a lot of bad stuff, but like, the humor is doing a good job of not making it feel like a sad book. So I'm still making my way through 7 Days in June. I just finished Friday, and there's just Saturday and Sunday left. And I feel kind of bad for what I said in the last clip because it's definitely improved. I think I just don't like Eva's voice. And the thing that's happened since is we've gotten a bunch of different perspectives. We got Audrey, who is Eva's daughter, and we got Cece, who's like her best friend slash publisher, agent, something. And then we also got Eva's mom. And all of those perspectives I loved and kind of wish that we had more of. And we did also immediately after get into some romance between Eva and Shane, and I like their dynamic. I just wish that I could put my finger on what I'm not enjoying, because there's so much about this that I do really like, and I think that the writing and like the storytelling is really good. I just don't know if this is necessarily a story that I want. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts about this book, but none of them are particularly articulate. So let's finish it and see if I have any more luck. So I finished 7 Days in June, and I'm really conflicted about it. It's so good, like you can tell it's such a good book, but I really didn't like Eva, and the ending kind of pissed me off. There's this super long epilogue that just felt really unnecessary. It was too close to the events of the before timeline. Like, this felt like an epilogue that should have been a year or 2 in the future, and some of the third act conflict was not distasteful. It just like pissed me off, and it was hard too because this is at the end they're basically like debating whether or not they should be together, and they keep bringing up some pretty good points about why they shouldn't be together, so it's hard for me to root for them. But I think that it's really good. I think that T. Williams is a great writer. I think there's a lot of moments in this that I really loved. It's a 3.5 and I'm struggling picking one way or the other. We'll see once I write my review on Goodreads which way it goes. I do highly recommend it. Like, I think it's really good, and everybody's romance taste is subjective. This is basically a second chance romance, so if that's what you're into, then cool, but I also don't think it's 100% romance. And in fact, my favorite parts of it were the parts that didn't feature the two romantic leads, so do with that what you will. Anyway, that's it for the vlog. 2 5 stars that I really loved, so this was very successful overall. Thank you for joining me. If you participated in Blackathon, please comment below, let me know how it went for you, and I guess that's it, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!